Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to India Food Forum 2016, the 5-course spread of food retail intelligence. Over the next 3 days, we shall see a galaxy of luminaries and stars of the industry, both Indian and global, share with us ideas, insights, innovation, and opportunities, all of which will help accelerate the food retailing experience towards profitable growth. Let us begin with the first of our knowledge series, which will focus on Excellence in Store Operations Redefined. This interactive workshop will be presented by our global expert, Joost van der Laan, founder of Retail Economics. Joost van der Laan provides consulting services and training to retailers, suppliers, and service providers. He has managed over 50 category management projects for major A-brand suppliers and retailers. His experience has transformed organizations and brands across the globe: Ahold, Jumbo Marketing, Sara Lee, Tesco, Bacardi, Unilever, and Procter & Gamble, and others. He has also been a part of consulting teams at PwC, Nielsen, A.T. Kearney, and Erasmus Food Management Institute. He has published numerous articles on online grocery shopping in trade journals, and later this year will publish the book, 9 Profit Battles of Online Grocery Retail. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our expert for the first of our knowledge series, Joost van der Laan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to be here. This is my first time in India, and the first time I address an audience almost entirely consisting about people of India. I know from experience of working with people from India that they are very much alike the Dutch people, in the sense that they are direct, just as we are. Different from people from Indonesia, where I also work and live quite often. So let's make it an interactive presentation. If you have a question, you can ask it. And I hope you do not mind if I ask some questions to you from time to time. I understand that most of the time you do not mind, as long as the questions are polite. Okay, there was already a good introduction of me. I have about 40 years experience as a manager in logistics, marketing, but also developing cost-profit models and also applying them in practice. And all this experience I have condensed in a speech of about 2 hours, 1.5 hours, and I'm going to do this very fast. I hope you do not mind. Some of my sheets are a condensed presentation of half a day. So at the end, after this presentation, I have arranged that you will get the sheets by email, so you don't have to write the sheets, only write down some revelations you have and maybe action points you have for your own company. My first question to you is, I would like to know you a little bit better, and I would like to know how many of you are retailers? Okay, not so very many. How many of you are suppliers? Okay, and how many of you are service providers or consultants? Okay, and how many of you will never raise your hand, whatever I ask you? Okay, thank you, sir, no problem. Okay, importer. Okay. I come from the Netherlands, and then the Netherlands is a small country, only 17 million inhabitants. But we have some particular characteristics. For example, after the USA, the Netherlands is the world's second exporter of agricultural products. And after the USA and Spain, the Netherlands is the world's third producer of vegetables and fruits. This is the Netherlands. On the east side is Germany, on the south side is Belgium, and across the North Sea is the UK. And I also have a picture of some bakery products I always have to take along to friends abroad because they like it. I didn't bring it along for you, but I brought something else, and that is a box of tulips, tulip bulbs. Is anybody of you has a garden and who would like to have this box? You were first, sir. Here you are.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoy it. I also brought this picture to introduce myself because I have a small property in Bali, and this is the Hindu temple I built near the river of my property. But I've looked around here, and this is quite different from the buildings I've seen in India. But this is maybe makes a little bit more connection with you. What are we going to talk about? This is what I promised in the introduction. I talk about shopper frustration and turning it into unique selling propositions. I talk a little bit about category management because that is very important when you want to make an excellent store. Also for suppliers, because category management, category projects are most of the time, in my experience, working together between suppliers and retailers. And going a little bit deeper, I will talk about assortment and presentation. Price. Price is important because of the internet. Price transparency becomes very important. It is very easy to compare prices. Productivity, and a little bit as a bridge to tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to speak about online retailing, a little bit about omnichannel, because I think that is one of the things of the future that make grocery stores profitable. And during my presentation, I'll give you a few examples of the Jumbo case. I worked 5 years to work on Jumbo. Jumbo was a small regional retailer in the Netherlands having 1.2% market share. Now it has 20% market share in a very short time. So this is a successful company, and I would like to share with you what we did to get this success. So this is the first part. Frustrations become USP. I promise you to tell you about understanding the shopper's delights and frustrations and learn how to turn these into unique selling propositions. But before you can do it, you have to know what are the real shopper demands. And I divided them in 4. There are 4 different types of shopper demands. Some of demands you know. You know that they want to have low prices. They want to have choice. They want to have a clean store. They want to have friendly personnel. You know it, but my experience is that many retailers do not act on it in a very effective way. And I'll show you some ways to be not only very effective, but also very unique. Then you have political correct answers when you do an interview. And those are claimed as important, but you can ignore them. The third part is the most interesting, I think, and that is subconscious demands. Subconscious demands are very important because when you buy something and when your customers buy something, they mostly use their subconscious. Some people even say 95% of buying decisions are based on the subconscious mind. And after the purchase, they rationalize it with their thinking mind, with their logical mind. And if you do not believe me, go back to the last time you bought a car. Not very much logics and a lot of subconscious. And then there are shopper demands that are not very important. That is the fourth part, but you have to recognize that. But how do you recognize subconscious demands? The demands that are so important. First, you look at the behavior of customers in the stores when there is a problem. How do they behave when there is a long waiting line for the point of sale? How do they behave when a brand they're looking for is out of stock? Then you learn a lot. The second thing you can do is analyze complaints of your customers. In my view, a complaint is a free advice of an emotionally involved customer. So what should you do when you get a complaint? Listen very carefully and give the customer flowers or a cake, something to show that you appreciate the complaint. And the third thing, that is, you can ask your shoppers what they think is annoying in your store or in the store you're working for as a consultant. Because then you learn very much about what you can improve and what you can do to do something that is really important for your customer. Measuring what is annoying and turning that in USPs was the basis of the Jumbo formula. We call them the 7 commitments. They were all based on answers on the question, what do you think annoying? Long lines for the point of sale and things like that. Prices. Not having the products that they want. Things like that. Well, here's that list. This list is not a surprise to you. It's not a surprise. But what is important, to come up with a solution that is credible. So how do you turn these annoying points into a unique selling proposition? First, you have to take it serious. Second, you have to come up with a unique action. And third, but not least, you have to offer proof that you're really doing something about it. So this leads to a shopper demand. Ooh. What do you think those people find annoying in this store? They have to wait in line. And by the way, those are Chinese people, and I know from my experience at airports that Chinese people do not like to wait in line. Americans maybe don't care. They are used to Disneyland, where they have to wait for 2 hours to get in some stupid, excuse me, some ride. Okay? This is a unique action, question mark. This is the store of Whole Foods, one of the stores of Whole Foods in the United States. And here someone is showing customers where the shortest waiting line is in the store. I think it's a unique action, but it is not a very effective action. There are better ways to deal with it. So in the Jumbo case, I'll show you. You will discover amazing examples how to prove to your customers that you have the best store in town. And the first example is, I think, the most interesting. So the shopper demand is, we do not want to wait in line. Shopping must be easy. You might want to wait in line for something very important, but you do not want to wait in line for your groceries. First, we build a system. One system is we made a weekly planning for the store and for the different departments, and in this case, the point of sale. We made a 15 minutes planning based on past experience, and we introduced a automatic shopper movement measurement. We call that the cashier's mate. So we know exactly how many shoppers are in the store at any time. So it is possible to say to people from the point of sale to go have a cup of coffee, but you have to be back in 15 minutes, because then the customers are going to your workstation. So those three elements made that it was hardly impossible to get lines in the store. But the commitment, maximum 3 shoppers in line, had to be proven. And the proof is also a USP and a fantastic marketing mix element. Because we promised that when there are more than 3 people in front of you at the line, you can take your car and walk outside without paying anything. Without paying anything. And we still do that. Now you might think that goes terribly wrong. That goes terribly wrong. Of course, we have the systems to prevent it. And these systems work so well that almost never we had to do this. And we wanted to do it from time to time because it is fantastic public relations. So we told the managers of the point of sale in every store, you have to do this at least once a week. Have someone go out for free. So you have to make sure that there is a line sometimes. So take back some of your people and introduce a line. And then someone, and maybe you can look at someone that looks very nice and she can go out for free and ring a bell and announce it. And this lady and everybody in the store will go and tell it. And maybe 100 or 200 people will hear about it. And when you do that every week, it is fantastic public relations. And what does it cost you? Maybe 20 euros times 76 is rupiah. Okay, fantastic, fantastic public relations. The Jumbo store, when we started this, and this is only one of the 7 commitments, some of the stores tripled their turnover from one week to the other, tripled. And I, as a manager of the development of these 7 commitments, had to turn into a logistic manager in order to prevent out of stocks, because it went like crazy. Okay, we also introduced category management. And is any of you involved in category management projects? Any of you? Okay, some of you. So I will not go very deep into it because it already exists a long time and you can study it on internet. But actually what it is, category management is managing a category like a business unit. So it's not only managed by buyers who are buying and negotiating prices with suppliers, but they also are responsible for presentation in the store. So they are responsible for space management. They also are responsible for the pricing. The pricing that has to generate turnover, but also has to generate gross margin. And at the end, they are responsible for the net profitability, or I like to call it direct product profitability of every product and every product category. This is the system, the category management system that already exists a long time. And it consists about the category definition, the structure, the role of the category and the subcategories, the assessment, performance measures, strategies, tactics, and implementation, and then review, and then the whole process works again. This process takes about 6 to 8 weeks, and supplier that works together with a retailer does homework, try it out, and have regular meetings together. This is an example of a category definition, and it is based on the customer decision tree. I work with companies that are specialized in doing research and finding out the customer decision trees, because you want to present the category in the same way as your customers are thinking about the category, and the same way they are making their decisions. And an example is, in this case, I think this is the dog food category that on the top level is divided in 3 parts. So it translates into space management. Maybe this is a little bit hard to read, but you can look it up at home. This is a way to look at a category and to the roles of the category. The mainstream is traffic builders, transaction builders, and routine. Traffic builders are products or categories that are very well suited to have price promotions and to get people to the store. Very often those are national brands with a very low gross margin for the retailer. So you want to use them to get them to the store, but you do not want to sell too much of it. You must have it, no out of stocks. But if you sell it, you very often make a loss. I do not know how it is in India, but national brands very often are loss leaders in the supermarket. But you need to have them because they are traffic builders. You also have transaction builders. That are the products you want to sell in the store. So you have to promote them in the store. Then you have destination products. That is the product your primary customers will go to the store. For example, wines at Aldi stores, or organic food at Whole Foods, things like that. Well, this is even more detailed, and I will look at it when you receive the presentation. But you can see that you look at a category or a subcategory from the role point of view, from the shopper involvement point of view, and every little compartment has some policies for range width, range depth, and pricing. And this is just one example, and it is a lot of work to come up with all those tactics. But discussing it, you will come up with ideas to change your store and to change your category. But there is also a new development within category management, and that is looking at the specific characteristics of a category. I call it category-specific category management. For example, when we did a category management study about wines, and that was without a supplier because there are no national suppliers of wines in Europe, we found out that it is actually a fresh product. So product quality is very important. But what was even more important, and that was to our surprise, that you can only sell wines to the so-called heavy users. Heavy users call themselves connoisseurs, but they're actually heavy users of wine. They need someone in the store who can tell them about the quality of the wines, who has a working knowledge about wine. And that can be the store manager, or in a large supermarket, it can be the department manager. You can sell 3 or 4 times as much wine when you have someone who has knowledge about wine. And this is very specific for the wine category. Heineken beer or beers in general, high availability, no out of stocks, because your customers will go to another store if it's not there. But low visibility, because if you sell Heineken beer, at least in the stores I know, you lose money. You lose money. So high availability, low visibility. Produce, freshness, and low waste. If you have to throw something away, maybe 20%, you lose money. Meat. I was talking to myself about what I would say about meat, because I learned last week that meat is a subject in India you have to be careful about. But okay, I'll do it anyway. you have to have optimized partitioning so you can get a maximum price from the complete sorts of meat. Dairy needs efficient logistics and cooling. And organic product visibility, because organic products are now attracting a different kind of public, and this public is getting bigger and bigger all the time. And I know that in India this is also interesting because you have issues with GMO product and labeling of GMO products. Visibility and of course a reasonable price. It is more expensive to grow when you talk about produce, but you must have a reasonable price. Assortment and presentation, and now I go a little bit deeper and more in detail in the category management. And then not only optimizing assortments, but also shelf space allocation is important. And I use the DPP model. When I worked for Nielsen, I was in charge for 2 years for doing DPP projects in the Netherlands and in the UK. And we measure the direct product profitability, the net profitability of each individual product. We have systems to do that. And this is an example of a DPP matrix, DPP versus sales. On the right side, you have the winners. They have a high net profitability and high sales. Examples, Yakult. Yakult has high profitability, high sales. The best examples I know is batteries and razor blades, and they're now coming from the same company. Sometimes gross margins are up to 60-65%. And when you sell a lot of them, you make a lot of profit. Traffic builders, example is most of the national brands. They have high sales, but low DPP. So when you know this, what can you do? What are your strategies? And I will not go over everything. You can read it at home. But let me take the winners on the right side. If you have a winner with a high net profitability and high sales, what you do is you heavily advertise it and promote it. You make additions to the assortment. You have aggressive displays to promote turnover in the store. Of course, you maintain shelf stock, no out of stocks of products that make a lot of profit. And you protect the position in the customer flow. You put the products where the people are. And that's very often at the outside, the outer ring of the store. Well, let me take the losers. The losers on the left side. Of course, you reduce shelf allocation and possibly you discontinue if you do not need the product. So you throw it out. Now, a few slides about price. Price, I already told you, is very important because of the increasing price transparency. And I have experienced about 3 very aggressive price wars in Europe. And I would like to tell you a little bit about the difference between price level and price image and what you can do about it. So what is the price level of a retail format? Price level is measured by collecting the actual prices of products of a fixed basket by an independent company. In the Netherlands, it is done by the Consumer Association, and they publicize it every 1 or 2 months. And you compare this price level of a basket with the industry average. And here is a picture of the result. You see on the right side a number of formats that have higher prices, and the dark blue is including promotions and the light blue is excluding promotions. And on the left side you see the formats that have lower prices, actual prices. So I worked for the company Albert Heijn for 4 years that has the highest prices, and I worked for 5 years for the company that has the lowest prices, that is Jumbo. So I have experienced the whole spectrum. What you also see is the difference between the highest and the lowest is only 10%. That is not very much. And that is the result of heavy price fights, because it used to be 25%. Albert Heijn was very expensive, and the retailers with low prices had about the same price levels. They have to earn something. Well, a little bit about this price level measurements have their limitations. Of course, because you can only measure national brands, because you have to compare exactly the same products. Some stores only carry private labels like discounters, so they are excluded. And can you fix it? Can you fix the price measurements? Yes, you can. We do not measure promotions, but sometimes you can time the moment of the, you can anticipate the moment of the measurement and the products that are measured. And of course you can temporarily lower the price when you do this right. But it is a small cat and mouse game between the people that measure and the companies that are measured. Now, what is price image? Price image is different from price level. Price image is the customer price level perception. And it is not based on measurement of the actual prices, but it is based on interviews with customers. And what is the driver of price image? Of course it is price level, especially when it is promoted well and proven well. But it is also store presentation. If you have an Aldi-like store, price image is lower. It has to do with assortment mix with promotions and also with proof. If you have a low price and you do not promote it and you do not prove it, you're throwing away money because you have a low price level but not a low price image. So how can you obtain a good shareholder value? Later on, I'm going to talk to you about customer value, but first about shareholder value. That is the combination of a favorable low price image plus a medium or high price level. That's ideal. Why? Because a low price image is good for sales and good for traffic and good for customer retention. And a medium price level or a high price level is good for gross margin. And the combination of the two is very good for profitability. But you understand, you are in the business, this is not an easy task. Here you see a presentation of a number of formats, and on the vertical X you see the price image, and horizontally you see the price level. And you see there is a very high correlation between price level and price image. Jumbo has a low price, but also a very favorable price image. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Albert Heijn, has high prices, but also a not so favorable price image. The image is high prices. But it still is a big company because it does everything else very well. But the most interesting part of this picture is the blue, the dark blue dot on the upper level, because this company does something very well. It has a favorable price image and relative high price level. So that is very good for your profitability. And that's why it says A+. On the left side, you see a cross. And that is the Christian way of saying that something must die. If you are in this corner, you go bankrupt. And you see there are no companies in this corner. So how do you work around this? First, you have the accountant way of raising profitability. For example, you want to raise profitability by 12%, and your gross margin is 28%, and your average operational costs are 23%, your profitability is 5%. That's about what's happening in the UK. In Holland, net profitability is lower. It's about 2.5 or 3%. So what can you do? You can increase prices by 0.6%, and then you can reach this target. Or you can have a cost reduction of 2.6%, or you can do a combination of the two. But this is the accountant approach, because when you do this, you do something that is not favored by your customers. Because if you increase your prices, you create a competitive problem, and if you lower your costs, you very often have a service problem because you take away service. And the alternative is positive feedback. Positive feedback. So this is the only time in my presentation that I do something a little bit theoretical, but I hope that I will prove to you that the concept of positive feedback is crucial for profitability, but also of the future of your stores or your clients who have stores. So I have to explain what positive feedback is, because it is not very easy to understand, but very important. Positive feedback is an enforcing loop. But it can go both ways. If it goes downwards, you call it a vicious cycle. If it goes upwards, you call it a virtuous cycle. And the exponential growth of a virtuous cycle is a powerful tool in the grocery industry. A very powerful tool. Why? I'll show you later, but first I have to tell you a little bit about the pricing strategy of the different successful companies. Albert Heijn has a high-low promotions strategy. Jumbo has an everyday low pricing strategy. No promotions at all, but everyday low pricing. They now introduced a little bit of promotions because the market is asking for it, but everyday low pricing. And of course you have the possibility to have a high share of private labels. Private label products have the advantage that the margin in general is very high because you do not have to pay the national suppliers very high costs of the products. What is the effect of EDLP? If you practice EDLP, you have to drop the prices, of course, to the lowest level in the market. But the effect is you have lower margins, lower gross margins. If you have lower gross margins and you still want to be profitable, you have to increase the volume. You have to increase turnover substantially. And you have to dare to do this. Because sometimes people say this is kamikaze when you do this. And to get increased volume, you have to get a better price image in the consumer mind. Here you see a positive feedback loop based on pricing. You have also feedback loops for assortments and for presentation. This is only pricing. And I'll go around and I'll show you why this is a positive feedback loop. For example, we start with the consumer price. If you lower it and you do the rest also very well, you get a favorable price image. So that is a negative. You lower the price, you improve the price image. You improve customers, that is a plus. You improve turnover, that is a plus. You improve resource productivity, that is a plus relationship. You lower activity cost, that is minus. You lower, when your activities costs are lower, you increase net profit, that's also a minus. And when you have a increased net profit, you have the possibility to further lower your prices. That is a negative. What you see here is 4 negatives, and 4 negatives is a positive. So this is a positive feedback loop. Do not try to explain this to your accountant, because what he will say is, the reality is much more simple. If you lower your consumer price, you lower your net profit. But what he does not understand is you start a positive feedback loop the wrong way, downwards. And when I worked for Jumbo, we had the possibility to buy a very large company that did this the wrong way, that used the same loop, but in the wrong way. Because they lost net profit, because things went bad. So they increased consumer price. Price image went down. Customers didn't come anymore. Turnover went down. Resource productivity went down. Activity cost went up. Net profit went down. And you see, the same cycle produces a vicious cycle downwards. This company does not exist anymore. We bought the stores for a low price, and that was one of the reasons that we went from 1.2% to 20% now. We bought 3 of those kind of store formats, big ones, that were much bigger than we were before. Now, if you still do not believe me, even when you hear this enthusiastic speech of me, look at Walmart, what they did. And Walmart has taken over America. They destroyed the competition. I do not like this company because of many reasons, but I like to take it as an example of a winner from a profit point of view, from a shareholder value point of view. First, they started buying low cost from China. Then they introduced EDLP, and they also used effective promotions for this favorable price image. And if in a city they wiped out the competition, they increased prices again because there was no competition anymore. Not too much, because they still want to maintain this favorable price image. They give relatively low salaries, and they focus on cost reduction. If you work for Walmart, you better take a second job to be able to pay for your house and your car. But they attract customers from a very wide area, and the situation right now is that 90% of all Americans have a Walmart close by. That was the success. And they used the tremendous profitability to expand and expand, not only in the United States, but also in the UK. They bought Asda, and also in Germany. And what you see here is a graphic representation of the yearly growth. In the beginning, it was about 30–40% per year, and later on, until about 2001, it was in the range of 10 to 20%. It was much lower, but it is still very large. And the sales went up like this. This is the exponential growth I talked to you about. So this is the proof. And I must tell you, Walmart, when I worked for Jumbo, was an example, and we learned this from Walmart, most of it. But there is something new is happening, and that is the online revolution. Because here you see the market value, the share value of Walmart, that is the lower line, and the share value of a new retailer, Amazon. And here you see again this exponential growth. And Walmart has reached its level because there are Walmarts everywhere. It's impossible to grow much further, especially when you have a competitor that is as strong as Amazon. So this is the new development. And tomorrow I will spend the entire presentation about online retailing, and we go into it a little bit further. Okay, that was price image, price image. Now about quality image. What is quality image? It's also a very important part of creating an excellent store. We talk about quality image as assortment choice, a wide choice. The quality of private label, because private label represents your store brand. Natural product quality. I talked already about wines. You have to select the good wines and sell them. The freshness of produce, a clean store and friendly store employees. The combination of those things result in quality image. And quality image, of course, is very important to build an excellent store and build a large percentage of primary customers. So how do you achieve customer value? That is excellent quality image and a favorable price image. That is a very nice combination. And I already gave you a couple of examples. For example, Aldi has very low prices, but an excellent product quality. If you go in an Aldi store, do you have Aldi in India? Do you know about Aldi? You've heard about it. It is a very successful discounter from Germany. There's now a second one. Lidl is doing even better than Aldi in Germany, also in the Netherlands, also in the UK. Not so very good in France for another reason. I'm going to tell you about it tomorrow. But it has low prices and excellent products. Whole Foods, organic choice and excellent presentation. And of course, Jumbo, last but not least, low price levels, but an excellent proven quality. Friendly people, a very large assortment, wide and deep, and well, a number of other qualities. And here you see a presentation of quality image and price image. And in the last one, there were no discounters because price level is, you cannot compare price levels of discounters with the service providers with national brands. But you see in the left corner a low quality image and a very favorable price image, Aldi, Lidl. On the right side, you see high quality image, but not so favorable price image, and Albert Heijn, again in the corner, but a very big company, and you do not become big doing everything wrong. So they have very nice service and very good quality image. But now something very interesting happens, and that is the upper right corner. And you see my favorites store again, Jumbo. This is where you want to be. You want to have a very favorable quality image and also a very favorable price image. And here is where the winners go, the real new winners. Now I'm going to tell you something that is, again, very important and even more important than the last example for the Indian market. And that is the law of increasing returns. If you have studied economics, you've learned about the law of diminishing returns. But there is also in retail a law of increasing returns. And you are going to experience this the coming decade, or maybe it will take longer, but it will happen because of the rising middle class in India. A very large number of people are becoming middle class. I don't have to tell you because you know that. And that has to do with the store size. The bigger the store, the more customers it attracts, because you have more choice and you have a wider area where your customers come from. So in this example, you have 3 stores. You have a store of 1,000 square meters, and it has 8,000 customers a week, 8,000 visitors a week. You have a store of 2,000, and you have double the number of customers, because you have more to offer. But the small store has a small basket size. For example, 24 euros or 24 US dollars. The large store has 40, a basket size of 40. Why? Because you have a wider assortment and people buy more. But the result of the two is, that is the small store. Now in your case, you probably don't call a store of 1,000 square meters a small store. In my opinion, it is. And in 10 years, you probably also do the same. The 1,000 square meter store has a turnover of 192,000, in this case euros. The 2,000 square meter store has a turnover of 640,000 euro. That is more than 3 times the small store, 3.4 times more. So the store is twice as big, and the turnover is more than 3 times as much. This is the law of increasing returns, explained in a very simple overview. But it is simple but extremely important, because when the bigger supermarkets are being introduced in India, they'll wipe out the small kiosk stores. A large part, in my opinion, of the 14 million small kiosk stores in India. That's about right, 14 million? There are many of them. And this is what's going to happen. In every country I've studied or where I've worked, it works the same. If you have a large store, you have a much larger turnover. Walmart, I already told you what happened there. They wiped out the competition. And one of the reasons is that in the United States, you do not have much of zoning laws. I think the laws in India are stricter, also in the Netherlands. You are not allowed to start big supermarkets in an industrial area. And I agree with that, because it wipes out the competition in the inner city. This is an example of the most successful Jumbo in the Netherlands. It was a small store in the city of Tilburg. And it was in the corner of the city, between roads. It did about 120,000 euros a week. And it turned into a Jumbo, and it does now 2.4 million euros a week. Of course, we had to expand the store. We had to make a very big parking space. We bought buildings to turn it into parking spaces. But going from 120,000 to 2.4 million euros is a big step. This, for 10 years, was the most successful supermarket in the Netherlands. And this was a very nice experiment. Of course, we had a owner-manager, that did everything well, especially also in hiring the right people. If a youngster of about 18 years old came and he had a ring in his ear, he was not accepted. Why? Because a part of the customers did not like it. It was not accepted. They were very strict, and they gave these people that were hired very good education. Well, I can talk for an hour about this store, about everything they did to make it very profitable. In the end, the owner of this store that worked with the Jumbo formula sold his store for 34 million euros. Okay. Multiplied by 76 and you have the rupiah. It's a quite interesting number for one single store. Okay, I promise you I'm going to cover a lot of subjects with you. And now productivity, because that's also important for a good store, for a profitable store and for an excellent store. And I'll introduce you to a technique that I developed 15 years ago. And it is now a standard in a lot of different stores. I not only developed it, but I also executed it from week to week. And it was proven to be very interesting and very effective. I'll just go on and on. If you think what I'm telling you is interesting, if you have a question, you can ask it. But I presume from your body language that you think it's interesting. Nobody is sleeping of working with iPhone. I saw one person, but that's okay. So what is benchmarking? You probably know what benchmarking is. Benchmarking is comparing elements of your business with world-class examples. And it doesn't have to be the same business, but it must be a business that has the same processes, or maybe even a single process that is the same in your business. But compare it the best in class. For example, compare it with a company that shows this kind of turnover development because they're doing something good. They're doing something well. Analyze the improvement opportunities, implement them, and measure the result, and make sure that you continually improve. That is benchmarking. But what is internal benchmarking? Internal benchmarking is much more easy because you work with information that is coming from your own company. And the example I give you has to do with a store format with more than 20 stores, with the same formula, the same format. So what you do is you measure the actual productivities of departments of your stores, of individual departments. So for example, you take the point of sale department and you measure the productivity of the point of sale departments of all your stores. Next, you relate the productivity, that is the turnover per working hour, with a relevant driver. Now, most of times, the relevant driver of productivity is turnover. There is one exception, that is point of sale. The relevant driver of point of sale is basket size. The larger the basket size, the higher the productivity. Because for a large basket, you only have to receive payment once. And receiving payment sometimes costs just as much time as scanning all the products. And then you calculate the productivity driver relationship and you put it in a graphical form. And here you see the relationship between basket size and productivity of all the point of sale departments of about 40 stores. And you see it is a little bit diffuse because this was a not very well managed situation. But you also see a dotted line, and that was the relationship we calculated, and you see it goes up. So higher basket size, higher productivity. But what is the next phase? And that was the interesting phase. What can you do? You introduce a productivity improvement factor. What you do is you raise the line a little bit. Not too much, because you still need the outliers. You still need the outliers, because those are the examples you use later. And you make a standardized store planning based on this new improvement line. And you use the outliers as an example for the laggards. And then you get this kind of situation. What you see here is the new baseline. It is a little bit higher. That is the situation you want to reach for every store that is below it. And of course you ask the outliers to keep on doing what they are doing and maintain that productivity. The laggards, you send the people from the laggards to the positive outliers to learn how to manage a point of sale department. And when you do this, when you manage it this way, you can increase the productivity of your departments and of your whole store in a very, I would not say easy way, because it is a little bit complex, but this is a way of improving productivity that is understood by everybody. Everybody understood what's happening here, because you use the example of existing stores and you give people an education in the good stores. And the next thing is you can combine it with also the management of the cost per hour, per function. You can also add it to this model, and you can even double the results, the profitability results, but I will not go into it. I would like to show this to you because it is easy to understand, and it is a very effective and friendly way of improving productivity for your employees. Okay, where are we? We're going very fast. We're going very fast. We have a lot of time for questions later. I promise you to talk about omnichannel, because in my opinion, omnichannel is a very effective way of dealing with online retailing. What is omnichannel? Omnichannel is a physical store working also online. So you have the physical store and the traditional way of doing business, but you combine it with online retailing. But the combination is you integrate it, because you also use online retailing in your physical store. There are all kinds of ways to make this integration. And why am I enthusiastic about this development? Because I think that the physical supermarket is a very competitive and very sustainable business model. It is it's working quite well, and it is resisting the revolution of online retailing. And why is that? Because the most expensive activities in the store are executed by the customers. You do not have to pay the customers to do the order picking in the store. They do it themselves. It's called shopping. And you do not have to pay them for home delivery because it is called driving to your home, right? And those are the most expensive activities of a grocery store. So when you go online, an online retailer have to pay for the order picking of consumer items, SKUs. And you have to pay people for home delivery. And tomorrow I'll show you that there are ways around it, but that is the basic situation. So online grocery retailing has until now never been profitable. And I remember in 1998 I made a model about online grocery retailing, and I wrote articles in the trade journals telling that online grocery retailing would never be profitable. And people wanted to kill me about it. Well, maybe not, but it was a hard message to tell everybody because you had this big hype, the online hype that was before 2000 when the balloon collapsed. But this is still true. Of course, there are new models, and one of the models I'll show you tomorrow that is developed about someone of Indian origin, the Instacart model, that is only a software package. The whole company is a software package. It's only software, working with freelance people to do the shopping and to do the home delivery. It's a fantastic, I think it is the best online grocery retailing model on earth right now. But going back to omnichannel, if you have a supermarket or the supermarket that are going to be developed in India, they'll have to go omnichannel. They also have to do some online retailing. They have to do some home delivery. But also, the online presentation on internet will enhance the store. So that is what I mean by integration. If you have a store, but you also have a website, you present the products, and that will build traffic, and that will build trust, and that will also build customer value. That's omnichannel. Here you have a representation of a store, that's the upper part, and when you add home shopping. Well, I think it speaks for himself, but the order picking and the transport to the consumer costs about 15% of retail value, 15%. And I already told you that net profitability of an average store in the UK is about 5%, and in the Netherlands, if you do it well, because of the price wars, is between 2 and 3%. So if you add 50% costs, you have a problem. And there is another problem. Consumers do not want to pay more than about 5% for home delivery. So that is €5 on a basket size of €100. And this 15% is what I calculated 17 years ago, and it's still coming back from other consultancy firms. It's always the same. And it is only 15% if you do it quite well, and if you have a large market share. If you have a small market share, the costs are much higher for all kinds of reasons. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So this is a presentation of a home shopping situation, an omnichannel situation. What are the cost drivers? Turnover, assortment, temperatures. If you deliver groceries at home, but you also deliver produce that must be cooled, and frozen goods, you have a complex situation, an expensive situation. That makes it very expensive. It is very much cheaper to send a book at home by the mail. Here you have 3 temperature possibilities, very expensive. Of course, also efficiency, productivity, in order picking, the average basket size, that has to do with delivery. Delivery costs a fixed amount of money. Doesn't matter if you have a basket size of 40 or a basket size of 100. Better to have a basket size of 100. Or in case of the Tesco's and the Albert Heijn's, you have a basket size of 130, 140 euros. Times 76, that's rupiahs. Very large basket size. Then you have a possibility to break even, not lose money. Of course, average distance to the consumer homes and the average distance between the homes, because you have to, you burn fuel, and you have the cost of labor. Percentage of returnables is not so very important with groceries. And of course, numbers of complaints. So you have to do it very well. Here you have a picture, a cost picture. The blue costs are the normal cost in a store, and the red lines are the additional costs for online retailing. And you see the big ones is order picking and transport to the consumers. So this is a very clear picture that the additional costs are high. And I already told you, the additional costs are much higher than the additional value to the consumers, about 3 times as much. And when your additional value is only 1/3 of your additional costs, and you are an entrepreneur, you know you have a problem. And that's what's happening here. I already told you about 50% of turnover. And there is a simple way of reducing the cost of home delivery. And that is becoming very popular in countries except, for example, France. In France, this is the normal way of online retailing, and that is introduction of pickup points. So you ask consumer to do an order online. The people of the store will pick the order. They put them in the pickup point, but the consumer have to drive to the pickup point and pick it up. So you do not have the home delivery cost. And you have seen that is the highest cost. So you reduce that. So this is very popular with retailers. There is only one problem. It is not very popular with most consumers, with the exception of France. But France is a very different situation. You have a large share of hypermarkets, and if you have to buy a liter of milk and a couple of eggs, and you have to do that in a hypermarket, that's not very nice. It's easier to go to a pickup point nearby. The other reason is very popular in France is that all the companies are putting pickup points in the neighborhood of a competitor. So this is the way they fight each other. There are already about 3,000 pickup points in France. In the UK and in the Netherlands, they're also experimenting with pickup points because it is too expensive to bring the stuff home. But there is always this trade-off. It is cheaper, but you are losing clients, you are losing customers. So I am convinced that in the end, this is not going to work. Well, we come to the end of the presentation, and I would like to make a small bridge to tomorrow to talk a little bit more about online, but also talk about India. And I have not studied the Indian market. I got a very nice report from the Dutch embassy about what's happening in India in food retailing. And I learned that the Dutch take care of about 56% of all imported baby food. 56% of all imported baby food come from the Netherlands. And there are a couple of other categories where the Netherlands has a very large share. It's only a pity that imports of food in India is very low because of the high tariffs. So the percentage sounds very nice, but I'm not going to give you the numbers because it's not so very big. And it's a very small part of the 86 billion euros of exported agricultural products from the Netherlands each year. 86 billion, yes. Okay, I've learned that Big Basket is doing very well in India. Let me see what Big Basket. But I have to tell you about a new development that is very interesting. Amazon is now teaming up with they hope with all 14 million small kiosks. What are they called? Yeah, 14 million stores, and they want to sell their software to these small stores so they can do their online retailing and delivery at home. I think that is a very smart move because software doesn't cost very much, so you don't have to ask, you can ask a price to these small stores that is affordable, and Amazon has the most fantastic selling software in the world. I already buy books from Amazon starting in 1998, and since that time I counted it, I bought 640 books at Amazon and only 50 books at normal traditional retailers. Then you say, do you have the time to read all those 650 books? Well, I have to because I'm a developer and I like to read. And I also can read very fast. I think India has a very large online grocery potential. Why? Rise of the middle class. The number of middle class people in India is rising very fast, and the number, because of the large population is also very large. It is also one of the youngest populations in the world. Many millennials, and tomorrow I'll show you that the people, millennials, favor online retailing very much, more than the older groups. It is estimated that in the year 2020, that's only 5 years from now, you have 600 million internet users in India. Smartphone penetration is already very large. And of course you have populated cities, so many people in a small area, and also relatively low labor costs. It's also very favorable for online grocery retailing. Thank you very much for your attention. This is the end of my presentation. You will get a copy of this presentation by email, and I hope that you have a lot of action points for your company. If you have any questions, right now, I'm here. I'm also here the next half hour, so you can ask me in the back.
If there are any questions, could you please raise your hand? We'll have a mic passed to you. Any questions? Yep.
You made a cost comparison of online stores and retail stores, and where you mentioned about 15% of transport cost. But in Indian context, particularly in Mumbai, we have to see one thing is the labor cost is very low, which you mentioned later.
Yes.
So the transport cost will be substantially lower. That's number one. Number two is the cost of space in Mumbai is very high, and that will offset, because in case of online store you don't have to really have a store which is in a prime location, and the cost of space could be substantially lower. So the economics could be a little different than what you mentioned.
Yes. Thank you for this question. You're absolutely right. And I started to put the specific Indian numbers in my models, and you get a change. I already told you, but you agree with that. Much lower labor costs. And also you have in Mumbai this system of lunch boxes. I forgot the name. That's right. But I'll call it lunch boxes because I remember that. And it is a system that works perfect, almost perfect. And why does it work? Because labor costs are low, and the people that do this have a high quality drive. So that's true. When you talk about cost per square meter, if you have a store in a city in Europe, it's also very expensive. But if you go online, you can go outside the city because it is a industrial activity. So then the costs are lower. But this is one of the reasons, the low labor cost is one of the reasons that online retailing will work quite well. But I have to say, especially in combination with a supermarket chain that has a large assortment, very much promotion power, and trust with consumers. I'm very curious how this Amazon small kiosk thing is going to work out. But the disadvantage is that if they all go online, they all become each other competitors, you see? Now, they're very local, and they have a local clientele. If they all go online, they're all competing. And in the end, it will be the bigger store with the larger assortment that is going to win. And that is a dynamic that has to manifest itself in the future. I think I have a pretty good idea where it is going, and I told you about it, about my idea. But I also know about tariffs that are high. There are some red tape obstacles for foreign companies to start supermarkets, and there is all kinds of dynamics I do not know about. But this is a natural development, and in the end, it will go that way. The bigger stores are going to win, also online. Thank you for your question. Did you like my presentation? Yes? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.